Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're taking a closer look at Germany's economy. Germany, home to some really massive global brands. But, beyond the cars everyone knows, what's actually powering this economic giant?
Right.
We've got this document, Germany, a gateway to European business opportunities.
Yeah.
Basically as our map for today.
A good starting point.
Yeah, and the goal here is really just to give you, our listener, a quick, clear grasp of Germany's economic muscle, its strengths, its potential, whether you're just curious about global markets or maybe even thinking about business there.
Sure.
This document, it hits the key figures, GDP and such, points out the major industries, their innovation focus.
Yeah.
So let's just dive in and see what makes Germany tick.
Yeah, it's a really interesting picture. The document gives a solid overview, I think. You get the sense of the scale, the core industries that form the base and that focus on the future, on innovation.
Right.
And what really stands out is how these pieces fit together. It creates this very robust, very dynamic economic system.
Okay, so let's start with sort of the big picture view. Germany is one of the world's largest economies. We kind of know that. But the actual scale is still pretty impressive.
It really is.
We're talking a GDP in 2023 of, around 4.456 trillion US dollars?
That's the figure, yeah.
And per capita income over $50,000.
Yeah.
I mean, that points to serious economic activity and, a high standard of living.
Definitely.
The document also mentions a resilient industrial base. Now, when we hear that term, resilient base, what does that really tell us about how their economy is structured?
Well, that resilience, it really speaks to the fact that manufacturing, making things is still absolutely central to Germany's economic identity.
Right. Unlike some other places.
Exactly. Unlike some advanced economies that have, shifted much more heavily towards services, Germany's kept this really strong core in industry, and that provides a certain stability, doesn't it?
How so?
Because the demand for manufactured goods, it often follows different economic cycles compared to purely service-based sectors. And historically, you've got these incredibly strong vocational training systems, a real culture of engineering excellence backing it all up.
Okay. And yeah, when you say industry in Germany, I mean, the car industry just leaps out, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Volkswagen, BMW, Mercedes-Benz.
Household names everywhere. The document highlights their global leadership. Quality, volume.
Both, yeah.
But it's got to be more than just putting cars together on a line, right? It suggests a whole deep ecosystem of innovation behind it.
Oh, definitely. The auto industry there is almost a perfect example of their wider strength in, let's call it high precision engineering.
Right.
It means huge investment in R&D and advanced design. You need that highly skilled workforce. And that expertise, it often then spills over, you see, into other manufacturing areas like specialized machinery that gets used all over the world.
Right. Good point. And we shouldn't forget the chemical giants either. BASF, Bayer. Maybe not as flashy as cars.
No, but huge.
But their global impact, pharmaceuticals, advanced materials, it's massive.
Exactly. They represent another really crucial layer of Germany's diversified industrial strength. They show leadership in these technically complex, research-heavy fields, contributing hugely to exports and that whole cycle of innovation within Germany.
So it's clearly not just about the factories themselves. The document mentions a complementary service sector. How does that fit in? How does it support the industrial side?
Think of the service sector as providing all the essential plumbing and wiring for that industrial engine.
Okay, the support systems.
Precisely. You absolutely need strong banks and financial institutions. You need super efficient logistics, advanced infrastructure just to make manufacturing and global trade actually work.
And Frankfurt comes up there.
Yeah, Frankfurt's role as a major European financial hub is key. It attracts international banks, financial firms. It's that financial backbone.
Right? Financial backbone supporting the industrial muscle. That makes total sense. The document also stresses Germany's location, strategically positioned, and its transport network. Those autobahns aren't just for going fast then.
No, not just for that. They're critical for moving goods efficiently. Germany's central spot in Europe, plus its really well-developed roads, rail, waterways. It makes it a vital logistics hub for the entire continent.
So it helps their own exports.
Yes, but also the flow of goods between other European countries, too. It's pivotal. And we shouldn't forget tourism either. All that cultural heritage, the landscapes, that adds another important dimension to their service economy.
Okay. Now let's touch on something maybe a bit less obvious. Agriculture. It's a smaller piece of the GDP pie, but the document says it's highly modernized. So maybe not a primary driver, but they're still really good at it.
That's exactly the point. Yeah, its direct economic slice might be small, but the high level of modernization, advanced tech in livestock and crops, it means Germany can largely feed itself and even export some agricultural products. It just reflects that broader theme of efficiency and embracing technology across the board in their economy.
And then, of course, trade, clearly a massive pillar for Germany, being a top global exporter, especially of those high-end manufactured goods we talked about.
Yeah, it underlines everything.
Cars, machinery, and then their main trading partners mentioned, the EU, the US, China. That really sketches out their global connections.
It certainly does. That strong export performance and high-value stuff, it just highlights their competitive edge globally. And the mix of partners, EU, US, China, shows these really strategic economic ties across different major world regions.
Okay, so moving towards the future now. The document really emphasizes this commitment to innovation, to R&D. Investing, what, 3.13% of GDP in 2023? That's a serious amount of money focused on what's next.
It is a very significant investment.
What are the key areas where this innovation push is happening?
The document points to a few critical ones. Firstly, Industry 4.0. That's basically about making factories smart.
Right, connecting everything up.
Exactly. Connecting machines, using data to make production way more efficient. Secondly, a big focus on renewable energy tech, solar, wind, etc. That reflects their sustainability goals. And thirdly, significant work in medical advancements, biotech, pharmaceuticals.
And there are specific examples like that push for smart manufacturing. That's the Internet of Things, IoT, linking industrial processes and leadership in, say, solar energy research. It sounds like they're really trying to shape what's coming.
That's the feeling, yes. Germany tends to take a very strategic, very long-term view on innovation. And what's particularly interesting, I think, is the collaborative environment they seem to foster.
How so?
Linking up research institutes, universities, and private companies. It creates this ecosystem where scientific discoveries can get translated into practical applications, into commercial products, more quickly and effectively.
Okay. Now, the document also brings in FOZL Europe. It describes them as a resource, a partner for businesses maybe looking to get into Germany or expand there, or even into the wider European market. Seems like they offer quite a bit.
Yes, it looks like FOZL Europe is focused on providing very practical, hands-on help. The services listed cover a lot of ground.
Like what specifically?
Everything from, establishing your brand presence, getting noticed in the market, to the really critical stuff like corporate tax planning and navigating the, let's face it, complex European legal rules.
Right, the nuts and bolts.
Exactly. And they also mention support with European investment screening that could be really useful for companies trying to find the right strategic entry point.
And it sounds like it's not just advice, is it? They mention practical execution alongside consultation.
Yeah.
Suggests they actually help do things.
That's the impression, yeah.
Plus things like trademark registration, even designing infrastructure like factories or offices. That covers a lot of the practical setup hurdles.
It really does. And adding interim management and HR solutions suggests they're thinking about keeping the business running smoothly, providing that comprehensive support as companies find their feet in a new market. It positions them as a partner for sustainable growth, guiding businesses through those different stages in Germany.
Okay, so let's try and pull this all together then. If we're looking at Germany's economy through the lens of this deep dive, what are the absolute essential takeaways?
I'd say the core insights are, first, that Germany has this incredibly powerful but also remarkably diverse economy. It's built on that solid foundation of a resilient industrial sector.
Right, the manufacturing core.
And coupled with a very strong, very forward-looking commitment to innovation. Plus, you add in its strategic location, the top-notch infrastructure, there's extensive global trade links.
Yeah.
It all cements its role as a really major player on the world stage.
And for anyone listening, maybe thinking of business opportunities over there, this conversation really highlights the potential, doesn't it? Given the robust economy, the strength in key sectors, and that continuous investment in future tech.
Absolutely. I mean, the German market clearly presents significant opportunities across quite a range of sectors.
Yeah.
It's driven by that stability, the skilled workforce, and this proactive stance on innovation.
So maybe a final thought for our listeners to chew on. Given this potent mix in Germany, that industrial strength, the dynamic innovation scene, the key global connections, what specific industries or maybe emerging technologies you think really hold the most promise there for future growth and international teamwork? definitely something worth pondering further.
A good question to end on.
And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive. Thanks for tuning in.